everybody, and welcome back to Off Topic with your co-host Doug and Kadeem. Kadeem, you're on a little trip. Tell us where you're at and what's going on.
Yeah, I'm due to work. I got pulled to the northern part of the state. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. So
Beautiful city.
I hate to admit it, this city really is gorgeous.
Yeah.
I talk a lot of crap about Cleveland, but it looks incredible.
Well, glad we could get you on here to record tonight. I know we had some issues yesterday. I know we planned on having our first guest this week. We're going to push that back to next week due to some personal issues on their side. Obviously, we wish them well, and we will see them next week when they bring us 3 conspiracy theories of their own. Kadeem, before we get started, any news or notes you want to get to before you take over?
Nothing special on my end. How about you?
Nothing crazy, just trying to get through the work week. I know you're in a conference, so it's a little bit different, but had to drive, Cincinnati, Columbus, a couple days this week, and it's just not fun driving there and then having to drive all the way right back. So just dealing with some usual work grind stuff. Happy to be on the podcast with you. Also wanted to shout out some of our listeners and things like that. We really appreciate you guys. We had a couple nice accomplishments for our podcast. We hit the 100 download mark for our last 4 episodes. And then we also got rated on the Good Pods Top 100 for sci-fi. So that was pretty cool for us. So yeah, just excited about where we're headed, and just wanted to shout out the listeners before we really got into the episode.
Alrighty. Well, this week is mine. So the first one is just a little more topical. Really just trying to gauge how you feel. As you know, yesterday we had some pretty important elections both around the country and in our state of Ohio. So I'm not going to ask you your personal political opinions, but I do want to ask your opinion on voting as a whole. So with some of the things that I know we hear, do you believe that elections are or can be rigged?
Yes, I do. I do believe it is possible. I would assume it's probably happened. I mean, we've been voting for a long, long time.
Okay.
I wouldn't put it past anybody in the government to, swing some votes their way. That just doesn't seem, out of the realm of possibility. So I would say, yeah, it is definitely possible, and it's probably happened more than once, in my opinion.
Okay. Me personally, I believe election rigging happens, but not in the sense like votes just getting thrown away or being blatantly changed. I think things like gerrymandering can do a lot to swing an election pretty heavily. Do you trust different methods of voting, like say mail-in ballots? Are you against that? Do you think those can be trusted?
So, because I don't, get too in the weeds on politics and things like that, I know this was very topical in our last election, presidential election, that is. How accurate are some of the claims about, people that are dead sending in a vote, that kind of stuff? How actual, relevant is that kind of thing?
So I can only tell you the stuff I've seen. The stuff I've seen is that, obviously dead people aren't voting.
You know what I mean? They're sitting in a vote in.
No, I got you. The one I saw, I know they made a really big deal of this lady who lived in Georgia or South Carolina because she signed her name as Mrs. her husband's name. I guess that's something people used to do because she's 90. So just say her husband name was Dean Wade. She signed her name as Mrs. Dean Wade.
Right.
I thought that was weird, but I know it flagged that because her husband died, but she says she's been voting like that for, 40 years. I know before there were a lot of claims of people who registered dead people to vote.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I know there were people who were registered. They said people were registering house cats and stuff like that. They registered them to vote, but I don't think there's ever been any large things of those people actually voting. That's from what I've seen.
Yeah.
And then finally, if you could change one thing in regards to voting, what would it be?
Better candidates on both sides.
Okay.
I don't know. I just want transparency with the whole thing.
Okay.
I understand voting's like a private thing. You go in the booth, you do your thing. But the things that we're voting for are very in in front of us, it's very, hey, we're voting for the president.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like that, I don't know. I just feel like transparency seems to be an issue because there's always some kind of complaint. Some state is recounting for their fourth time.
Okay.
It just seems like depending on, what side you're on, it goes either way. Oh my gosh, a red state is recounted the fourth time.
Mhm.
It could be turning blue, and that's why they're checking one more time because they're traditionally red. Or a blue state could be getting swung to red, and now we're recounting the votes to double. Like, I just feel like that doesn't, to me, is not a lot of transparency. It should not take more than once to count votes. To me, that just seems kind of. I guess I don't even really know. I kind of just stay out of it at this point. Do they even hand count them anymore?
I mean, probably some. I think you have some that are
That's a lot of hand counting, though.
I
That's
mean,
a lot of hand counting.
I get where you're coming from because, especially like with some of the Senate races, like not getting called till like 5 days after, like that kind of gets ridiculous.
Like, if we don't know the night of, count me out. Like, I don't. Like, hey, this is when the deadline's supposed to be. Nope, 2 days later. Okay, like it's just that's a bit much for me, and it loses me in the process.
For me, I think that voting day probably needs to be a federal holiday. I think the more people that vote, the better. And that's, no matter who you want to vote for, no matter what side you represent, I think the more people that vote, the better. So I think it should probably be a federal holiday. Just give everybody the day off work. Let them be sure that they vote. And, for the people who don't want to use it, they don't have to, just like every other holiday. Not everybody does anything in remembrance of, fallen troops, but we still get like Memorial Day off. So things like that. That would be mine.
Can I ask you a question about this? How much do you think a single vote matters?
I think it depends on where you live. I don't think anywhere in the country, like, it's, essentially 95 to 96. I don't think it's like that. But we live in Ohio. Ohio's a swing state.
Mm-hmm.
And, Ohio's one of the states you kind of have to win, usually, to win the presidency.
Right.
So if you're in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Georgia, if you're in states like that can go either way, I think your vote's really important. It also depends if you live in a really red district or a really blue district. Like if where you vote, it's going to be red no matter what, then yeah, you can say, it doesn't as much matter. But I don't know. I think from a bit of a moral standpoint, it's kind of important to vote, even if you live in that district. But that's just me.
That makes sense. That's good, solid reasoning. I think that's fair for both sides of the coin,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, sometimes I get the feeling that my vote doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I can't not be alone in that sentiment because my one vote isn't going to change the presidency.
I think
my one vote isn't going to swing Dayton, Ohio, one way or the other.
And that's the thing. You're probably right, but when too many people think like that, it goes from your one vote to a couple hundred votes to a couple thousand votes. So I think it's one of those things where you kind of need the mass of people to do it just to get an accurate representation of, because you don't want like the just kind of fringe people on the extremes to be the only one voting.
Yeah,
that kind of sucks.
I mean, do you want to highlight the big wins for Ohio? We're now marijuana friendly here. There's a cash cow business for us.
That was pretty big.
And then obviously the other one's very topical and very dividing, so we probably won't bring that one up. But,
I'm going to bring that one up.
But I think the marijuana thing's good because here's the thing: it's so common at this point. I don't understand why we can't just do a sweeping 50 states thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I know some states are very stuck in the mud about certain things, so I get that part too.
I'm just happy it'll bring a lot of jobs.
I mean, money, jobs, it's all kinds of things.
Yeah, so I'm good with that. So this one is a double win.
Can't wait.
To properly research this conspiracy, I had to go learn about a completely different. Have you ever heard of a 15-minute city?
I have not.
This is going to be fun. Okay, so in February 3rd of this year, a train derailed in East Palestine, Ohio. Some of the tankers of this train were filled with hazardous chemicals, was ruptured and then caught fire. About half the population of East Palestine, Ohio had to be evacuated for health and safety reasons, though the overwhelming majority have returned. So, the issue with this is that people believe that Cleveland, Ohio is only about 90 miles from East Palestine, Ohio. And people believe that this was done intentionally to get people to move out of East Palestine and into Cleveland because Cleveland is striving to become a 15-minute city. So, leads to the question, what is a 15-minute city? A 15-minute city is an idea that the way your city can be structured is that everything you need should be within 15 minutes of either walking, bike riding, or public transportation from you. You should be able to go to your doctor, to your grocery store, your gym, park, your favorite leisurely activities, all within 15 minutes of either walking, bike riding, or public transportation. It's supposed to be a potential answer to our climate issues because it reduces our dependence on cars and automobiles. The issue with 15-minute cities, according to people, is that they believe 15-minute cities and a reduced reliance upon cars will lead to the government essentially taking cars away and trapping people in their individual cities. So your particular 15-minute area will kind of just be zoned off, and you'll need a permit to leave your zone or to enter another zone. Basically just saying that they think this is another step into government tyranny and to controlling people and subduing people. So they believe that Cleveland is trying to become a 15-minute city, and the goal was to evacuate East Palestine, Ohio. I have to add Ohio so nobody thinks I'm talking about. And move those people into Cleveland and begin the process of stripping them of their rights, I suppose. Bit of a doozy, right?
Okay, so a couple questions for you.
Yep.
How many people that were evacuated from East Palestine actually moved to Cleveland?
East Palestine, Ohio has a population of 5,000 people.
Right. So
and it says only about half were evacuated, so about 2,000 and something.
Right. I was going to say they didn't actually really leave.
Yeah, there we go. But the attempt is what we're. Do you know that this was the attempt?
I do not. Because, as you know, I mean, I guess it's possible, maybe, but Jesus Christ, that seems very just out of left field to me.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like a random freak occurrence, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, obviously the chemical issue and the fire burning for days upon end, that's all very, very dangerous and obviously a spectacle. But if it doesn't ever actually lead to people leaving their home, people aren't going to just move out. Like, it takes a damn near the city burning down for them to actually leave. And the chemical waste and everything that was there, they weren't willing to leave for that. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Also, the idea of taking cars, we've probably got 16 billion cars in the world. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is there? 400 million people in the United States now, give or take.
Something like that.
So there's probably 800 million cars just laying around. If they're going to start cleaning up all those junked laying around cars before they start taking people who actually use those cars. And I don't see that happening. You know, there's a couple cars on my street that they could tow right now and I'd be good. That's a massive undertaking just to put people inside of major cities so you can control them. I don't know. Too much.
What do you think about the concept itself of the 15-minute city?
I think in theory it's a good idea, but not to control people.
I think it's a great idea.
Because the convenience would be fantastic,
mm-hmm.
but I think that's only looking at the positive. The negative would be overcrowding, you know, more pollution, potentially. I mean, if the cars are gone, then that probably cuts down on emissions and things like that. Littering and all that kind of stuff, it would be fucking dirty.
Well, but
that many people in one small spot, it would get very disgusting, in my opinion, because people are already disgusted.
So I think it's less of everybody in the entire city uses this 15-minute thing versus from wherever you are in the city.
I mean,
within 15 minutes, you should be in the radius of this. So there are several, still several schools, several hospitals.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But it's done in a way that you're never more than 15 minutes away from it.
But if you're bringing, okay, so just based on Cleveland, we'll keep using Cleveland. Based on Cleveland, Cleveland has 5 or 6 major hubs out of it.
Okay.
But if you're bringing in all the small cities around Cleveland, Akron, Toledo, all of those, I mean, at that point, you're still squeezing yourself very dry at that point.
I was just talking about of the concept of a city being structured that way, not bringing everybody into it.
Well, I mean, that's obviously the concept of 15-minute city is great, and I would almost like go further and say that's the perfect time for like, what do they use in Japan? Is it a monorail? Like the speed train? That would be perfect. But people don't want to give up their freedom of their car and their things like that. They don't want to do that. But in theory, it could probably help long term. I don't want to take anybody's freedom away with that, but I think the concept has good.
You still keep the car. You just won't need it as much.
Yeah, I mean, but then people are like, "Oh, you're taking my freedom by
Like you'll see when a lot of people go, like they vacation somewhere like in Greece or Italy or something like that, a place where people walk the majority of the time, come back and say they lost like 16 pounds. And it's really just because they were walking, 2 to 3 to 4 miles every day. And while here, you just don't.
Well, it also helps that they eat differently, portions, things like that.
Like, I'll be honest, probably 0.2 miles from my front door is a Sam's Club. If I need to go to Sam's, I'm just going to drive.
You hate it there.
Like, I'm not about to walk. I'm about to drive. You know what I mean? So, like, I think it's a good idea just because everyone I know, when they want to do something, they drive to it. As far as potential, so you don't see any potential for a Hunger Games scenario where everybody's trapped in their little zone.
Their district.
Yeah. My main problem with that is that the auto industry is just such a huge part of commerce for us.
So much money.
I just don't see how you can say it's beneficial to get rid of that.
It's not. Like I said, there's so many cars. The amount of cars is insane.
Yeah, the auto industry is gigantic for our economy. I don't think that's worth. I think there are better ways to subjugate, I guess, than that.
Okay, let me ask you a question. I'm wondering, and all of our listeners are wondering.
Okay.
Where is the last place you walked?
Like what?
Where is the last place you walked?
Like I walked to go get something, or just?
Well, you brought up Sam's Club. How close Sam's Club is to you? Where is the last place you actually walked to?
To buy something or just to walk?
You could either. You decide.
Sure. So there's this mobile game. It's basically like how Pokemon Go was. It's called Monster Hunter Now or Monster Hunter World somewhere. It's a Monster Hunter game.
Okay.
And I go to Cox Arboretum, which is a really big park. It's a nature park with a walking trail and all that. And I just kind of walk around that while on the game and fight monsters and collect stuff. So I do that once or twice a week. But I mean, I don't do a ton of walking, I guess. Outside of that, what I have to do for work, when I have to walk somewhere for work, I don't do a ton of walk. Do you walk a lot?
No. I walk at work from, like job sites and stuff. So the last place I walked was up 5 floors at the construction building we're working at. I thought your answer was going to be at the Bengals game the other night, walking from your car.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was going to be your answer, but you're some kind of loser who goes and walks at the nature reserve.
No, well, here's the thing. My job is right across the street from Paycor Stadium.
Yeah.
So it's a very quick walk, but you're right. That's probably, that's a decent walk, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, no.
With the city. That's a good point.
Interesting. Yeah, the 15-minute city. I like it in concept. In the context you're bringing it, though, seems far fetched.
The thing that upsets me most with the East Palestine thing is that a toxic chemical spill to evacuate a town is so cool. I'd love it if it was for a better reason than getting 5,000 people to move to Cleveland.
Did you just call a toxic spill with that level of chemicals cool?
Dude, like just being fair, that is awesome. Like as far as conspiracy theories go, saying the government dumped toxic chemicals to get people to move out of somewhere because there's something in the land they wanted.
But they wrecked a train. That's very dangerous.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying that's a cool theory to hear.
Okay, all right.
That's a cool theory to hear. But then when you hear it's like, okay, so why'd they do it? It's like, well, because they wanted 5,000 people to move to Cleveland. It's like, well, just fuck. Like, yeah. I don't think that's just not a good enough reason.
Yeah, okay. I gotcha.
All right. And you're probably familiar with this.
Okay.
This is a compilation of several theories. It just depends on the disease. There's pretty widespread belief that diseases like Ebola, AIDS and HIV, COVID, and herpes, to name a few, are man-made and have either been purposely given to certain populations or have accidentally escaped or leaked and grew out of control. Where's your head at on this
one? Hashtag Resident Evil. I mean, I thought AIDS came from monkeys.
I'm gonna tell you, I've heard people say that. I have no idea where AIDS actually comes from. That's never something I've chose to look up.
We'll have to ask Magic Johnson.
We love you, Magic. So this is one I've heard a lot because
HIV's from a chimpanzee. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I knew that was right. Okay, continue.
This is one I've heard a lot because you heard people. There were a bunch of people who thought that the CIA purposely gave AIDS and HIV to Black and gay people because those were the communities that had it the highest. Mm-hmm. I wasn't aware that was the thought with herpes. That's kind of wild. I'm not sure the benefits of that one. But how are you on the idea that the government is creating diseases, first of all?
I believe that's true. But I also support that because I think I don't support giving it to people unknowingly and like, hey, good luck, that kind of thing. But I do support the study and exploration and scientific avenues that potentially could come from it. I do not support going out and pricking somebody with a needle and them not knowing that you just gave them a disease that they're going to carry with the rest of their life. No, that's a different story. Scientifically, though, I am all in on that kind of thing.
Are you okay with, because you said I want to ask, are you okay with the concept of a dirty bomb for a disease?
On the record, no. Off the record, yes.
Like if we went to war with some country and dropped a cancer bomb.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm good with it if it's the actual life or death. Yeah. If we lose this, we're off the map. If it's not that scenario, if it's us just playing tag and helping somebody in the Middle East, no, I can't do that. But if it's a war to survive and literally we're gone if we lose, then I think it's any means necessary. Is that not fair?
So here's the thing. We've legitimately nuked a country before. So I'm not sure why giving a disease is worse than atomizing people.
I mean, I'm guessing the disease we give them is pretty much death no matter what.
And that's what I'm saying. Now, unless we're saying this is going to spread all over the country, which I guess most of these are contagious. So, yeah. That would probably be the point. Yeah, I'd say that's a little too far then, because then you can't really aim that, you know?
Right. I mean, you're just trying to infect as many people as you can, and they're trying to, and hoping they infect other people. But I mean, my question back to you is that not fair? If it's end of the world scenario, are you not using everything we have?
No, I'm not. Because here's the thing. I'd rather
What do you mean?
I'd rather us use a nuke and just kill the people.
But I think there's a bigger chance of if we overuse nukes, we might actually screw up something else.
I mean, yeah, but if we use, like, let's say you make a new COVID-25, right? Mm-hmm. And you drop it on a country, it's just going to spread through that country, then to other countries.
But the scenario I'm talking about isn't, like, I guess I'm into the world scenario. Like, okay, I mean, you're not wrong. I don't know, but nuclear fallout's going to fuck other countries over too, though.
I mean, yeah, but I think that, I guess less than, here's the thing, we just saw a disease kind of shut the whole world down.
Yeah.
And as a planet, most of us have decided we don't give a shit about the climate. So.
Okay, but I think we're also talking about two different levels of sickness. Like, one, we're talking about, COVID unfortunately did take lives, but the kind of warfare we're talking about is a little more severe.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. We saw a disease that most people lived from shut the entire planet down for about 2 months. Can you imagine if it's something made to kill people? Like, I think we just saw that we really don't have a way of stopping things like this. I guess is my point. It's going to destroy it.
But here's the thing: if we don't get Madagascar, we can't take out the whole world. Sorry, that's from that game that we played. Pandemic or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
the mobile game.
Make everybody sick. Yeah, I got you.
Sorry, listeners, that was a bad joke. Madagascar is always very hard to get.
It's a game where you have to create a disease and infect the whole world. I cannot remember the name of it.
It's something like Pandemic. I don't know.
Yeah, it's killing me too. But okay, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's harder. You can aim a nuke a little better, and even if you kill everything in the area, it's just that area. Like, you drop a disease, and I just think it spreads terribly.
Yes, but in this theory, we would have the cure to the disease. We wouldn't send it out an incurable.
Oh, well.
Wait, you thought we were just sending out a disease we didn't have the cure for? Because that's wild. I
mean, I thought so.
Especially in an end of the world scenario.
Yeah, I thought that.
Yeah, no, we have to have the cure. We can't just drop chemical warfare on people.
Okay. So.
Okay.
I guess as long as we give the cure to the neighboring countries, then sure.
See, in my scenario, we're only worrying about us because it's like us versus the last. I don't want to get.
So you're okay with biological war?
I think I am.
That is a war crime.
Okay. In this scenario, then, are you going to napalm before you go to biological warfare?
Yeah. Yes. I just feel like biological warfare is the step that I'm probably not willing to cross.
I mean, they took napalm out for a reason.
Well, they weren't dropping diseases back then either.
No, they were just dropping liquid fire.
Agent Orange.
God dang. Okay. I in the right scenario, I would, but I'm also not dropping it without a cure. So there's my final stance.
Oh, y'all heard the war criminal? That's where he's at. What about, are there any diseases that you don't fully trust or you think may have been manufactured?
I'm sure there are. It's probably happened once. I don't know. No, not that it comes to mind.
I just think something like that would be kind of too important for it to.
I mean, that's why I said when we first started Resident Evil vibe. Like, that's the vibe that it gives. And I don't know, it seems like a big implication to say that we made a disease and unleashed it on our own people.
Right.
But I do think what you said originally, but we didn't develop HIV. Like, they might have been studying it, vice versa, which is extremely shitty. I would never, condone that. But, working on it and trying to figure out how it happens and building their own version, that's something scientific. That's a different story. But giving it to their own citizens is absolutely fucking nuts.
Okay. All right. Well, that concludes my week. Next week we have a special guest who I'm hoping is going to make us put on our tinfoil hats.
Me too.
Um, I want extreme nonsense in this series, so I very much look forward to hearing from them. Doug, do you have anything for us before we get out of here?
Nope. Just want to say, keep helping us out, listeners. We really appreciate it. Good episode tonight, Kadeem. Very interesting, very thought-provoking episode tonight. So always appreciate that. And guys, help us out on YouTube. All of our information will be in the show notes. Hit us up. We're on Linktree, Twitter. We're on all these different places. Help us out. Hit the download button. We really appreciate it. And we will see you guys next week with our first guest. Kadeem, until next time, buddy.
You have a good one. See you later.